Hello, this is Jamie Margaret. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card. Cat hair on it. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm going to be using StazOn ink today with my Stampin'Up because I want a nice dark image. I'm using the Meadows dies. I'm using this Hello from Fragrant Flowers. And this is the die I'm using from the Meadows dies. I'm also using 2 of the largest squares from the Stylish Shapes dies, which I've cut out from So Saffron. And this was like, I think it's a 3 1/4 inch square, so it cut these out. I'll just bring in the pieces. This would be the outside, and then this would be the inside, so I would end up with something like that, and I only need this piece here. This one you could toss, and this one is you can use for something else. Okay, from this die I cut from a piece of Granny Apple Green and just the tops from polished pink. So I have a polished pink scrap, Granny Apple Green scrap to cut that flower out with. I have a 1 inch by 5 1/2 inch strip of vellum, or it might just be, yeah, 5 1/2 inches. It just needs to be long enough to wrap around the front of your card and fold over the edges. I have a 2 by 5 1/4 inch piece of black, 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of black. My card base is thick, which is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then my Stampin'Up. And then don't forget the So Saffron piece was 3 1/4 inch square. Okay, let's put all these aside. Okay, and I've already cut these out. So you'll see here, I cut out the entire piece of the Granny Apple and then just the flower part of the polished pink. Okay, I need this. Okay, so let's start by stamping our sentiment on our vellum. And I'm going to do that with the Stampin'Up, just because I want a nice dark image. So I've made a template here. I'm going to go ahead and set my vellum in here. Go ahead and use these magnets. Ink up my StazOn. I had to re-ink it. It was so dry. I didn't want to stamp. Go ahead and stamp it. That looks pretty good, but I'm going to go ahead and stamp it again so I get a nice solid image. Okay, I'm going to give it one more, maybe not because it's moved, so that'll be good. Okay, so let's set that aside to dry. Alright, let's bring in the flowers. First thing I'm going to do with my Melon Mambo pencil, I'm going to color in the centers of these flowers. And then I'm just going to do like a couple little lines into the petals of the flowers. This isn't necessary. It looks fine without it. Just added a little bit of something. And it works best if your pencil's sharp. I don't know if you can see that. It's nothing fancy. And I'm coming in with my snips. I'm going to cut off these buds. Whoops. Cut off the flowers, just the flowers. These two stay together, so that makes it easier. They stay connected. And this part here can come off. Okay, now I'm going to use my wet glue. You could use the double-sided tape, but I like the wiggle room the wet glue gives me. Just a little bit of glue on the back. And I'm going to glue this right over the top of the green layer. Okay. A bit of glue on the back. This one I'm just going to put the glue right there. Okay, so there we have our flower image. Excuse me. Okay, so let's come to take the 4 1/4 inch by 5 1/2 inch piece of black. Well, let's start with the 2 by 5 1/4 inch piece of black first. And I'm gonna go ahead and mount this. There we go. To the white layer, which is 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to leave about 3/4 of an inch from the right hand side. And this is, forgot to trim this down, so I'll have to do that. Should be 5 1/4 instead of 5 1/2. I'm going to bring in this one. Line up this. Trim off that black layer. There we go. So this one should be, yeah, 5 1/4. I forgot to trim it. Okay, then this can get mounted to this black layer, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. There's going to be about 1/8 of an inch border because it's 1/4 inch smaller. Okay. Now we're going to take our yellow piece. We're going to figure out how we want it on there. It doesn't need to be perfect, but we don't want it to hang off. It's just going to be at an angle, so we'll put some glue on the back of it. I'm being very light-handed with the glue because I don't want to make a mess. So cattywampus it. About like that, I guess. Okay. All right. Now we're going to take our flowers. We're going to put dimensionals on the back of the flower part and glue on the back of the leaves. the little bit, the tiny dimensionals. These ones, because they fit nicely behind these flowers. I'm still gonna have to cut a piece to go behind those ones. So I'm going to take one of these dimensionals, cut it in half. Put a piece there. A piece there. Okay, take these backs off. Put another dimensional right there. All right, this one's being difficult. Come on. Thank you. All right, a little bit of glue on the leaves at the bottom. The stem. Okay, so we're going to place that towards the left side of the black strip and hanging off a little bit. All right. Now we're going to bring in our vellum. Hopefully it's dry. It is not. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss it because I want it to be dry. So I'm going to use some black embossing powder. Don't normally use black embossing powder, but I think it'll work fine. All right, this away. Throw that coffee filter away. Heat tool. Bring this in so I don't warp my table all up. Hopefully you'll be able to see it when it goes. It turns shiny. There it goes, starting. It's a little bit mottled because I probably should have done it when it was still wet, but you know, right when I stamped it, but it'll work. Okay. Now, weave it so it gets dry. Now I'm going to put this around the back, and I'm just going to use, let's use the seal. I'm going to put a little bit on the back. And then I'm going to fold this end over right on top of it. Fold this end over. I think it's dry now. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to adhere this to the front of my card, and I guess I'll use the seal since I have it here. This is actually the Seal Plus. And this should be the same size as the front of my card. little bit off, but that's all right. And I'm going to finish it off with some of these matte black dots. Okay, and I'm going to bring in that trimmer. I must have cut this card base just a hair too big. Every once in a while. Well, I think I don't have it on there straight, but I'll figure it out later. Okay, well, there's the card I just made with you. And here's the one I did previously. Well, thank you so much for joining me today at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.